Hello my fellow escapists and welcome to my thoughts on Kratom. Yay or nay? Is it worth it? Well, here's everything you need to know about the notorious natural analgesic. Kratom is a naturally occurring opioid. Typically in powder form, it sources from the Mitragyna Speciosa leaves. Kratom contains alkaloids such as 7-OM that affects the opioid receptors much like morphine, though weaker than the synthetic opiates. Kratom releases dopamine and the endogenous opioid polypeptides much like other analgesics. Speciosa is endogenous to Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Papua New Guinea. Dried kratom leaves are chewed or made into tea. Most people typically toss and wash the powdered leaves or just mix it in the water. Lower doses generate a stimulant-like experience, while higher doses make for an opioid-like experience. Although there is 3 major strains in each family of leaf, which creates individual effects. There is the most popular, which is maengda, and there's Bali, Borneo, and Malay. The difference between effects depends on the color. White is primarily a stimulant, red is an opioid, and green is seemingly a balanced combination of the two, though leans more or less toward the opioid-like effects, depending on the batch or brand. There are other colors and types that should be mentioned, gold being almost identical to red, though fermented for a day or 2 less than it. Believe it or not, red is made from green using UV rays and extended wait time prior to harvesting. This process produces more 7-OM in the leaves, which ups the ante on the opioid-like effects. Trainwreck is a blend of different strains that make for a more pronounced experience. Then there's the brands that are named specifically for marketing and should be avoided. Any brand claiming to be a cure for specific things should be ignored, for the companies are misleading and typically have garbage kratom. Kratom is also a norepinephrine inhibitor, much like central nervous system stimulants, which make for a dopaminergic and hyper-focused experience, but it's mild and not as damaging as true stimulants. Furthermore, it is an NMDA receptor antagonist. Some people have experienced dissociative-like states like CEVs and internal hallucinations. Much like opiates, though, it causes pupil constriction, which isn't dangerous, but it's something that should be noted as a physical symptom of kratom intoxication. Kratom is legal in most of the United States and was recently legalized in Thailand. Alabama was the 6th state in America to ban the herb. The arbitrary ban of a substance that is far safer than one of America's biggest addictions, alcohol. A nationwide ban has been talked about for years now, but has yet to occur. The question arises often of why they would ban such a harmless herb. Well, the answer is pretty ridiculous, so let's go. Kratom has been linked to multiple fatalities with bold and fraudulent correlation with the Speciosa. One death was that of a young man whose toxicology report showed Benzodrex, morphine, and kratom. It must have been the kratom that killed him. Kratom's purpose is pretty straightforward. It's what you make it, whether it be a fun recreational experience like THC and kava, or an antidepressant. A big use for kratom, though, is maintenance. The drugs Suboxone, Subutex, and Methadone are all prescription medications used to help people quitting heroin and other opioids through their withdrawals. These drugs are just as dangerous as the real thing, with even worse and longer withdrawals. Kratom is the safest alternative to mend cravings and withdrawals for addicts. It could be theorized that the use of maintenance pills have lessened since kratom's rise in popularity, and the pharmacies don't like all that. My experience. So I learned about kratom in 2018, but only took it a few times back then. In 2019-2020, I started smoking and snorting heroin. I was a bad guy with bad habits. I met a therapist who ended up becoming my new girlfriend, and she really gave me hope. I started off by quitting for weeks at a time and going to kratom, substituting for better, then going back to the bad stuff. It was a start, but eventually it hit me that the hard drugs was not worth it. Finally, I realized I had something good. I stuck with the kratom instead of the hard stuff and rebuilt my life. Or better yet, built a life. I didn't really have anything prior, and that was on me. Kratom is a major factor in what assisted me through it. Nowadays, I still respect kratom as an antidepressant and more. The biggest con about kratom for most is withdrawals from overuse, and many people act as if it's just as bad as the big drugs just because of that fact. Simply untrue. At that point, kratom can be used to taper off of itself. Respect the substance and it will respect you. So my overall opinion of kratom is, it's good. For those of you who use hard drugs, reconsider and get clean. If you're the type to need something though to take the edge off, Consult with a doctor for antidepressants, smoke weed, or take some kratom or kava. And as I said, respect the substances, because you can become dependent on anything that alters your perception. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something. Have a good night.